A request to the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Damodar Modi and the Honorable Leader of the Opposition Sri Rahul Gandhi on behalf of the citizens of India. Greetings to both of you and good wishes as you begin your business in the Parliament of the country, which we traditionally celebrate as the temple of India's democracy. The following thoughts and concerns are formed in the light of the discussions that happened in the wake of the Honorable Rashtrapati's address to the joint session of the Parliament, spread over 2 days. This has raised some serious concerns and anxieties in the minds of the people of India. And it's important for you, as the representatives of the largest functioning democracy in the world, to be aware that these sentiments are real and that they should not be and cannot be overlooked for long. Let me state these as simply and directly as I can. Dear Prime Minister Ji, dear Leader of the Opposition Ji, you are called upon to serve the people of India through the Indian Parliament. Therefore, the minimum bottom line expectation we, the people of India, have is that you will endeavor to the best of your ability to do justice to the idea of being in the Parliament of India. In this context, dear Prime Minister Ji, dear Leader of the Opposition Ji, we request you to consider two important words: Indian Parliament. Indian Parliament. How you conduct the business of a particular institution depends on how you understand that institution. You cannot assume responsibility for conducting the business of an institution in a state of crass indifference and impregnable ignorance about what that institution is and ought to be, and therefore how its business ought to be transacted. Dear Prime Minister Ji, dear LOPG, first of all, please, for God's sake, remember that this is the Indian Parliament. This is not the Russian Parliament. This is not the Parliament in Congo or Upper Volta or Chad. When we talk about the Indian Parliament, dear Prime Minister Ji, dear LOPG, we mean that in the way the work or the business of the Parliament is understood and is sought to be transacted, the word Indian is paid due regard. And therefore, let's now briefly consider what this word Indian should mean to us in the specific context. Of course, the word Indian is much too vast to be explained and its ingredients listed in a brief video like this. So we have to be necessarily very selective and very brief in considering this part of our discussion. The very first thought that comes to our mind when we talk or when we use the word Indian is that the traditional culture, the worldview of India is the Hindu worldview. As a Christian thinker and author, I have no difficulty in accepting that the worldview that prevails here is the Hindu worldview. We may argue that the word Hindu does not exist in the Vedas and all that. Those arguments don't matter to me. I don't attach any value to it. As of now, there is a concept of the Hindu, and the worldview that sustains us, or the worldview within which we think and function, is, in terms of a loose terminology, the Hindu worldview. And within the Hindu worldview, the idea of the divine is that God is truth. Therefore, dear Prime Minister Ji, dear Rahul Ji, the way the business of the parliament is conducted must be in a state of unwavering and, shall I say, absolute commitment to truth. When a statement is made in the parliament, please make sure that every statement is defendable and is true to the last letter. Let there be no bad blood created by introducing statements in parliamentary discourses that are meant to create some kind of dramatic effect or to conjure up an ambience of prejudice against X, Y, or Z, or to cause embarrassment. All these are utterly unworthy of the business of the Indian Parliament, because after all, our national motto is Satyameva Jayate, truth alone will prevail. Dear Prime Minister Ji, dear LOPG, how can truth prevail in the life of the nation if the Parliament shortchanges truth? I'm not here on behalf of the people making any specific allegations that in this particular issue or that issue, this untruth or that falsehood was uttered. I'm only making a general sentiment known to you. Please adhere unwaveringly to the discipline of articulating the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This is the bottom line expectation that every Indian has of the business of the Indian Parliament. The second expectation we have is that India has a very rich and vibrant tradition of debate and dialogue. Somehow, most people think of debate and dialogue as a Western phenomenon. They are far from the truth. Actually, debate and dialogue are very basic to the Indian religious tradition, Indian spiritual discipline. We have many, many vibrant, exhilarating stories of religious debates and discourses happening as a routine matter, not as some kind of a very special, rare thing being organized in order to cause some wonder and amazement in the eyes of some foreigner. No, it was native to us. I had the good fortune to study the life of Maharshi Dayanand, the founder of the Arya Samaj, in some detail. I was struck by his commitment to religious debates. And he used to engage the representatives of the Sanatan Dharma in a series of discussions, debates, dialogues, so as to establish the light of truth. After all, his magnum opus is Satyartha Prakash, the light of truth. So, Maharshi Dayanand understood, being true to the Indian tradition, that debate is fundamental to recognizing the truth or revealing the truth or defending the truth. And a putative truth or something that is assumed to be true, which is allergic to an open-minded debate, is certainly not and cannot be true. If you're confident about the truth of what you're saying, you will not be insecure about entering into an open debate with whatever you advocate. Now, as citizens of this country, we have been growing increasingly disappointed and restless about the decline of the quality of debate in the Indian Parliament. Dear Prime Minister Ji, dear LOPG, a parliament minus healthy, robust debate is not a parliament. Please don't use the word parliament to anything which is less than what is really required of it. And again, Prime Minister Ji, LOPG, When we talk about debate, when we talk about dialogue, we also mean that this exercise is conducted in an appropriate spirit. Making statements like casting stones at each other is not dialogue, it's not debate, it is something else. As Confucius said long ago, the very first thing you have to do if you want to help humanity is to call things by their right names. So when we say debate, let it be debate and not pelting of words like stones at each other in order to hurt and humiliate. And let's not evaluate the merit of a so called debate in terms of the number of wounds inflicted, the number of defeats achieved, and the trophies won. In this kind of situation, dear Prime Minister ji, dear LOP ji, there is neither victory, there are no victors, there are only losers. It's a no win situation. And in this context, as people of India, we expect all of you in the parliament to preserve a little sense of humor. After all, humor is very basic to the Indian culture. We have a rich tradition of humor. Our humor may be different from the genre or genius of humor as found in other countries, but we do have a very rich tradition of humor. And humor is and has always been recognized as a medium for stating and relating to unpleasant truths. Of course, some truths are unpleasant, but truths must still be upheld and articulated, irrespective of how unpleasant and unpalatable these truths are. But it is possible to mitigate the bitterness in articulating the truth with the help of that wonderful faculty God has given to us, namely humor. And we have had eminent parliamentarians in the past, people like Pilu Modi, for example, who could bring a lot of humor into their discussion. I mean, Lalu Prasad Yadav, who has been turned into an object of hate through consistent and diabolic propaganda. His presence in the parliament was such a palliative. Well, what about Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee? Well, he did not have a highly developed sense of humor, but he had a geniality of spirit which redeemed every word he uttered. He never spoke in order to hurt and humiliate people. He never used words like swords. Thank God he had the heart of a poet. Sometimes, dear Modi ji, dear Rahul ji, we need to be poets. No harm. We can afford to have lighter moments in our parliamentary discussions. The country will not be a loser because of that. Learn to relax in each other's presence and not stare at each other, sparking fire each time your eyeballs meet. That's pretty silly. That's puerile. That's infantile. That is precisely the work of Bal Buddhi. Both of you must be very careful not to display Bal Buddhi to the people of India. We don't need it. We have no use for it. We are sick and tired of it. This message is loud and clear through the 2024 election results. We wonder why it is that this message does not sink into you. We don't want this. It's jarring on us. We have got other problems to handle. And on top of that, if it's only mutual acrimony, stultified mutual acrimony that you dish out to us in the name of parliamentary debates, I'm afraid we'll lose interest in all of this pretty soon. The limit is reached already. Please don't walk this way ever again. Bring a little cheer into it, a small touch of humor. Let's relax. The country will only be the gainer for it. And also, Modi ji, Rahul ji, in the Indian culture, there is a great value attached to courtesy. Courtesy. You know, people say in Lucknow, you could miss the train because on the platform, people will be standing and saying to each other, "Pahle aap, pahle aap, pahle aap." This sweetness and culture, I'm borrowing the words of Matthew Arnold, the 19th century English poet, particularly the words that he uses in his very interesting long essay, A Study of Poetry: sweetness and culture. Why can't we have a little bit of sweetness and culture in the business of the parliament? Why is courtesy such a bad thing? I'm in the field of education. One of the things that I've been very particular, because I belong to the tradition of St. Stephen's College, we believe that the mark of an educated mind is the commitment to courteous behavior, no matter what you know and how competent you are, what your skills and how much your skills are developed. If you're incapable of courteous conduct, you're good for nothing. That's the dogma on which I grew up in St. Stephen's College, and I ardently believe in it. This sort of unbridled display of boorishness, sort of deliberate and exaggerated discourtesies, as though that's a great achievement and that the people of India will stand and applaud you for it. I'm afraid you're terribly mistaken. We believe in courtesy. We practice courtesy in our day-to-day life. We expect the same from our leaders. So, parliamentary business must be conducted in an atmosphere, in an attitude of courtesy. Also, dear Prime Minister Ji, LOPG, India is a land of ceremonies. I don't know if you know this. What is the function of ceremony? Ceremony is meant to make every experience look majestic and meaningful. Even ordinary things can be transformed through ceremony. The parliamentary customs have their own ceremonies, but these ceremonies are not meant to be confined to, say, a 1-minute pocket of time. The entire conduct of business in the parliament must be ceremonious. And the courtesy that I talked about a short while ago is part of that ceremony that we as people of India insist on. We try to be very ceremonious, we try to be courteous, we try to maintain as much of the fragrance of life in our interpersonal relations, in the way we relate to the institutions we work with, and our social interactions everywhere. Why is it that you people think that is such a great thing to be boorish, discourteous, etc.? Please maintain the dignity of language. I'll come to that in a short while. All these are the qualities, the attributes that I have mentioned so far: commitment to truth, commitment to courtesy, commitment to ceremony, and the affordability of a little sense, a little touch of humor. All these are quintessentially Indian. So if you are conducting the business of the Indian Parliament, please consider these items to be non-negotiable. You cannot throw them overboard just to pursue your petty personal or political agenda. Now when I think of humor, I'm reminded of Mahatma Gandhi, the despised father of the nation. He said, if I did not have a sense of humor, I would have gone mad. Are we as a nation going mad? I hope not. And humor will be a great remedy. So, finally, because it's a parliament, and parliament is not really an Indian phenomenon. Actually, parliament is not really an institution of Indian origin, but now it's planted in the soil of India. Therefore, we talk quite legitimately of the Indian parliament. So I've dealt very briefly about certain Indian elements that we need to pay attention to, because we are losing sight of them. There are other things as well, but for the time being, this much. But now, let me talk about something universal also, because after all, parliament is a universal thing. Wherever there is democracy, there is parliament. Now, when parliamentary business is conducted, there must be a sense of style about it. And it's that sense of style that I also refer to as commitment to ceremony. Now, for example, when the Republic Day is celebrated or Independence Day is celebrated, it's all done very ceremoniously. Why is that so? Because that sense of ceremony is very important in communicating to the people the very important message that these are important, meaningful, and extremely worthwhile moments in the history of India. So, the care and attention with which we preserve and adhere to the ceremonial proprieteness of what we do reflects the value that we attach to the business that we transact. So, if you really have any respect for parliamentary proceedings, surely you will do all you can to preserve the ceremonial propriety of every minute of the Parliament's proceedings. Dear Prime Minister, we all felt very touched when in 2014, as you entered the Parliament for the first time, you bent down and literally kissed the stepping stones to the Parliament. That was a very moving ceremonial gesture on your part. Why did you do that? Because that was your way, and a very appreciable way, commendable way of communicating to the people of India that you revere the Parliament. Dear Prime Minister, what does it mean to revere the Parliament? Is it only to kiss the stone, the stepping stone? Shouldn't it be more by way of respecting the soul and the spirit, the culture, the sweetness and culture of the parliamentary traditions, universally recognized as such? And here, let me introduce another aspect which is both Indian and universal, the idea of style. Whatever we do in public life must be done in style. That's what I meant by ceremonial propriety. Dear Prime Minister, more than anybody else, you are very particular about, and we appreciate you for it, no problem. You are very particular about your personal style, how you appear in public. And all of us know that a huge investment is made in keeping your wardrobe adequate to the task of making your appearance in public a matter of style. Dear Prime Minister, don't you think that if style is important and valuable in matters of sartorial elegance, the way you dress yourself, it should be even more valuable in the way the business of the Parliament is conducted, in the way you go about and address people, especially during the campaign seasons. If a person conducts himself in extreme sartorial elegance and cultural propriety related to the dress code, then goes and talks in a manner that belies the expectation raised thereby, or to put it very bluntly, talks in a manner that's unworthy of the office of the Prime Minister, then the disappointment that the people of India feel about this contrast would be very, very shocking. If, on the other hand, your general style is that you don't pay any attention to how you appear in public or the ceremonial aspects of your personal appearance, then people may not expect as much linguistic and rhetorical ceremonial propriety from you. Whereas everybody does. People love you. People pay great attention to every word that falls from your mouth. I also do. That's why when certain statements are made that jar on my sensibility as an Indian, as an educated Indian, as a cultured Indian, I feel deeply disappointed. And I have to say that throughout the campaign season, I was disappointed with how you chose to address the people. I don't want to go into details, because they're not very pleasant to state. And the same thing I would submit to Rahul Gandhi also. Please make sure that courtesies are upheld, proprieties are honored, and a sense of style is preserved. All of which meant to contribute to and in fact enhance the sense of dignity in public life. India is a great land, and a great country cannot be run with small minds. When the people of India see smallness of mind in display, whether it is during election seasons or whether it is in the parliamentary proceedings, they feel deeply disturbed and very greatly disappointed. So we have great expectations for both of you. You are wonderful people. You're our representatives. We love you, we respect you. And if Modi ji will not mind it, I'm going to make a very specific request to him. Dear Modi ji, I believe I can take the liberty of making this request to you. Therefore, let me do so. Rahul Gandhi is today the leader of the opposition. In the past, certain things were said about him. But he has proved over a period of 10 arduous years that those allegations were irrelevant. They were unfair. They were not truthful. The caricaturing that was undertaken in order to show him down did not work. Well, all the while he was a public, he was more or less a private person. Today he holds a constitutional office. He is the leader of the opposition. And as you said in one of your statements in the recent parliamentary debate, addressing the Congress party, the people of India have put you there. Absolutely, no question about it. Let us take your own statement. If the people have put the opposition parties there in the opposition benches and Rahul Gandhi is the leader of the opposition, he represents the people of India. So if you disrespect him, if you treat him with contempt, as in expressions like Bal Buddhi, you're actually insulting the people of India. Make no doubt about it. Nobody else will say this to you because they're all scared of you. I have to say this to you because I love you. You know I have regard for you. And especially when a young man has proved in ample ways that his is no Bal Buddhi. I don't think anybody in India will agree with you that Rahul Gandhi suffers from Bal Buddhi, infantile intellect. Nobody will today believe in it. And if you keep on saying that to the people of India in full public view, it will boomerang on you. Please don't do this. You're doing a great disservice to yourself. If you encircle yourself with sycophants, they'll keep egging you on along the path of self-denigration. This will do you no good. Please respect the office of the leader of the opposition. And I request Rahul, even with greater vehemence and emphasis, please respect the office of the Prime Minister of India. Public business, the business of the people of India must be conducted in an attitude of mutual respect. You are functioning in the parliament, the temple of India's democracy. Conduct yourself as though you are in a temple, in an attitude of reverence, with fear and trembling. You're dealing with the affairs that govern and affect substantially the welfare of 140 crores, 1.4 billion people. It's not a small thing. It's not like, moving on the street selling peanuts. It's a very solemn responsibility cast upon you. Please measure up to that august standards. History will be grateful to you. You will leave a great legacy. And also, dear Prime Minister ji, dear LOP ji, please understand that every word that you utter in public life, every sentence that you utter in the course of transacting the business of the Indian Parliament affects the culture and character of India in a very substantial way. So today you have the opportunity either to enhance the culture of India, character of India, or to corrupt and degrade the culture and character of India. The choice is yours. What do you want to do? Do you want to corrupt, demean, denigrate, devalue, degrade the character and culture of India? Or do you want to ennoble it, enhance it? After all, we talk about India gradually becoming Vishwaguru. Vishwaguru has to conduct its affairs in all details in perfect civility, gentlemanliness, and the sweetness and culture that must be maintained in every society, leave alone Vishwaguru society. You can't behave in this manner and then project yourself on the global stage as Vishwaguru. It will only evoke derision and laughter. Please, let's take ourselves seriously if we want to be taken seriously by people beyond our borders. So, This is the request that every Indian has. This is the expectation that every Indian citizen has of you and all those are associated with the two offices that you hold, those on the treasury benches, those on the opposition benches. Please understand that you are not in the parliament to play your football. You are here to do the business of the people of India, and that has got two sides like a coin. One is the treasury bench, the other is the opposition bench. The two have to coexist if the coin has to have its value. And as Sri Mohan Bhagwat quite rightly said, and I'm very grateful to him, please understand that you're not enemies. You may oppose each other on issues, but ultimately you're co-workers, your fellow travelers, fellow wayfarers along the pilgrim path of serving the people of India. And if you forget that, then you will be judged and condemned and consigned to the dustbin of history. I hope it doesn't happen. India is a great country, and I said a short while ago, a great country must be run with great minds. Sare jahan se acha. I do believe in it. Sare jahan se acha. Hindu sita hamara hamara. Sare jahan se acha. Please repeat these words as you enter the parliament each time you do so. Let our love for Mother India refine, ennoble, animate, illumine every word we utter, every look we exchange, every step that we take in the temple of India's democracy. Jai Hind.